Swan, swan, over the sea, swim, swan, swim. Swan, swan, back again, well swum, swan.
Hello and welcome. This is a podcast with no aim. My name is Nick, and this is Chloe.
Hi.
And we're basically having this mini episode to discuss the fact that we are not dead.
Well, it was touch and go for a while, but I think my heart's still going. So.
Yeah. Well, we're just all kind of busy and just life.
Life sucks.
So we have lost Joel. He has become busy, and he doesn't think that he's going to not be busy anytime in the near future.
He's too good for us. So.
Yes, the only intellectual who kept telling jokes that would go over our heads and then I'd only catch in the edits is gone.
So now it's just us two with just the worst jokes to tell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could always have, I'm not going to say her name because she's going to start talking. Always have Alexa tell
Better than us.
Oh man, she told the worst one the other day. And I complained about it, and she told me that was not nice, and I could contact the developers directly if I have a problem. And I really felt like I probably should have with that one.
What was the joke?
I was like, tell your best joke. And she said basically, well, according to Monty Python, the joke wars ended in 1974, and I'm no longer allowed to tell those types of jokes.
What?
And I just thought about it for a while. I was like, that wasn't even really a joke. You're just providing some information about Monty Python.
Is that a Monty Python sketch or something? I don't
recall that one. So I don't know what that was all about. And if it was a funny joke, it went right over my head.
I mean, that's like maybe Joel is sitting there listening to this right now and he is laughing his head off because he would get this joke. But all I know about Monty Python is that one scene where you see a man's penis and the holy hand grenade and that joke in Sliding Doors about the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, so you're referencing The Life of Brian.
Yes.
And then you're referencing Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and then you're talking about the TV show which had the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, I feel like but there's have you ever seen the film Sliding Doors?
No, I have not. I don't think.
Okay, it's basically it's quite interesting. Basically, it's a woman misses her train, and basically her life diverges completely in two different ways because she basically catches the train, and then she catches her boyfriend cheating on her, and then in the other one she doesn't catch her boyfriend cheating on her, and she meets this guy who basically he says, remember what the Monty Python boys say, and you're obviously meant to assume it's always look on the bright side of life, but instead he just says no one expects the Spanish Inquisition, and then that's the joke.
Okay. I feel like I've seen a parody of this at some point. I can't place it, though.
It's a rom-com. It's meant to be awkward, and it did make me giggle, so...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we want to put together at least some sort of podcast for today. So we thought, let's go over one of our ideas for one of our products, which was to create a comic book based on Captain Jigswan versus Swanmaster. Which I tried to explain to my son. And he just thought it was the most disturbing thing I came up with ever. But the generalized concept of it is that Joel's character is an immortal, and he gets really bored with intellectual life. And so he finds a not quite very good serial killer who mostly just wants to torture like kids and stuff like that, but not like kill them. So he devises...
That'll be a really bad serial killer, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, not really a serial killer, like just a creepy guy. And then basically he gives the guy a bunch of swans and turns them into a swan-themed villain, if I remember the gist of it all right.
I believe that was about right, yeah. And Joel would be like the evil Igor type, playing around behind the scenes, trying to make us. So you were, no, I think I was Captain. No, I think I was the Jigswan, so I was.
You're
Yes, I was
Jigswan,
Jigswan, and then you were Captain Swanmaster, who would ride in to save the swans.
I was a detective who kept on running into these swan-based crimes.
Yes.
And so Joel takes me under his wing and transforms me into Captain Swanmaster, who is a swan-themed superhero to combat the swan-themed villain. And both sides don't really fully understand that they are both being supplied by the same person. And that's the gist of the comic book.
That's a great analogy and everything, but I stopped paying attention when you said takes him under his wing. I just started giggling at the pun. And I was, for the whole time you were reading that out, I was just trying to figure out if you did that intentionally or not.
No, I was just going off the top of my head from what I remember. I wasn't reading anything out. And I've actually thought about like how episodically the show would work. And I feel like it needs to start out as a serious crime drama.
Yeah, it should be like have you ever seen Death Note?
Yes.
Like how in the first few episodes you never see L. You should never see the evil swan villain.
No, you just see his victims.
Yeah, so you'll just see these small children with the swan beaks peck thing, and you'll just occasionally hear like a video of just this like evil serial killer, and she's just kind of faintly whispering, kind of like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. You only see bits of the person, and then eventually you'll just see her, and she's standing there, and she's, I don't know, dressed up as a swan.
Yeah, and I think thematically for the TV show, it will just start out with the main character, and he's a detective, and you got the police chief, his partner who doesn't quite believe him, like I guess like a new partner who's joined the force recently, and so he's trying
I've got it. It was an old serial killer thing that killed the police investigate. We need to get a name for these characters, or I'm going to get confused.
Let's say Detective. Don't want to go with the Swan theme name before he even becomes Swan theme. I was going to say Detective Swanson.
Do you know what? Fine, Billy Swanson, Detective Billy Swanson.
Detective Billy Swanson. Okay.
Typical. This is going to be like a noir type thing. So it's going to be really grim, dark, and everything, all sepia tones.
No, I think the first episode should be a double length episode, like a 2-hour long thing, and it's very noir.
Yes, it's very noir. It's like basically it's an entirely thing where there's no hint at swans being in it really, apart from the swans having attacked the children, and they barely even acknowledge that.
Yeah, you just see them in the hospital. And
but what it should be is the Captain Jigswan already existed and has already committed these crimes and was captured and killed one of Billy Swanson's children. And he's like, he took to the bottle, he took to the drink because he's so sad about it all the time.
I don't think he should actually have killed anyone. I think they just got really scared of swans.
I got it. I've got it.
That's why he goes to the drinking.
Billy Swanson actually has an actual swan phobia, and it's got absolutely no bearing in reality. Nothing ever actually happened to him. He's just afraid of swans. So he just goes around, and every time he
He just saw one in the park one day, and it ran at him, and that was enough. He's like, I'm done.
I'll never see a swan again.
And he's drinking heavily now because every time he goes through one of his swan scenes, these crime scenes, he sees a swan down by the lake. Like they're always by the lake or by a river. There's always a swan menacingly floating by, looking at him.
Oh my god! Every time it sort of comes, it comes like around a corner in the pond. So it's sort of there. He comes around. He's like just peering around, like, okay, there's no swans. I'm gonna come around. And then as he gets into the crime scene, it's there. And the music from Kill Bill when she first opens the door to the first hat fight, just yeah, just like zooms in on the eyes and it zooms in on the swan, and it just shows him running. Because I'm imagining Billy Swanson's quite a chubby gentleman, so he's gonna be like just like doing the pudding run type thing towards this swan.
Yeah.
Oh, no, away from the swan, sorry, because he's afraid of them. So he's just running away from them like the pudding run thing. So he's going to be running away, and then he'll get there, and there's just going to be another one's just like doing a swan-style saunter away. So this is him like just trying very hard to get away from the swans, and then eventually it just comes up to the end of the first half of the episode thing would be eventually he's just surrounded by an entire circle of swans, and he just drops.
I don't think we should go that far just yet. I think he finds a truckload of swans.
Yeah.
Just a truckload. Like he opens up the door and it's just
and
swans.
And then they all swan out, and they're all just like entirely circling him. So there's no way for him to actually escape. And then it just like fades to black. End of part 1.
Yeah.
In Comic Sans font.
And I think we should jump ahead like 3 months.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's no longer the portly gentleman because he's been running from swans for so long, and he's lost his job at this point. Like he's a mess. He's a total wreck.
Yeah. So now he's like the full-on alcoholic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's become a private eye, like, and he's like helping catch like wives cheating on their husbands, things like that. Like he's total slime at this point. And so he's investigating somebody, like where exactly has this woman gone, or where does she go every day? And her husband's very suspicious, and I think that woman could be like Jigswan, or at least the audience is meant to believe that's Jigswan. And
so what's we going to call this woman? What's her name?
Not a swan thing. Melina. Scholar. Melina Jackson.
We don't have to go this route, but I just thought of she should have like initials that kind of make it so obvious that she will be Jigswan. So she should have like her name should be like Jenny Samantha 1 or something. So her name would be JS1, like Jigsaw 1.
How about something very simple?
Jigswan.
We'll do Jenny Snow. Jenny Snow, or like I can't write anything down. This pen sucks. Yeah. So, what's a good J female name?
Jenny's the only one that comes to mind.
Jenny. Yeah. Well, we'll go with Jenny Snow. Or do you have a preference for a last S name?
I can't think of any.
Jenny Stark.
Swallow.
Bird.
Yes, the bird. Oh, get your head out of the gutter.
I wasn't even laughing about that. I just thought it was funny that you picked another bird name.
Oh, that's why I did it. Okay, so we've got Billy Swanson investigating Jenny Swallow.
Jenny Swallow. For possibly cheating, which now that becomes funny. All right, so so I believe the second half of the episode, like you get acquainted with like his now ex-wife, who like and his son, who is scared by a swan. His wife thinks he's taken the swan thing too far. And of course, in his coat closet, he has like pictures of swans like posted everywhere, and like there's little tiny tacks through them with the lines going between all the different swans and all the different parks and all the different ponds.
He's got like a proper little conspiracy wall about the swans, and imagining just like there's like a little hierarchy thing of just pictures of swans, and this one's the leader. These are like the little fledglings that are like they're the ones going off breeding swans. He's trying to get to the top of the swans to fully destroy them. Yeah,
and he's got like like I don't know what baby swans are called, but swanlings. Like a picture of a swanling and question marks all around it. Like, is this one of them?
Oh no, it should be the ugly duckling.
Well, they do look really ugly. But yeah. So, but then, along with that, there's actual photographs of like, kids who have gone to the hospital with minor bruising. It's not like they're strapped to wheelchairs or anything like that. They're all able to walk and everything. They're just being looked at by a pediatrician. And he's having this like complete nervous breakdown. and a total alcoholic at this point. And that's when the mysterious character shows up, who's literally called Mr. Swan. I can't think of a better name for him. And his point is that Billy Swanson, it's fated, it's destiny, and that's part of the big dramatic speech he gives to him. And of course, Billy does not take any of this seriously at first.
Well, yeah, you've got to go the hero's journey. You've got to have the denial of the call.
Yeah, and so that's the whole middle portion. Is he keeps running into Mr. Swan, and he begins investigating him. Like, he becomes obsessed with trying to figure out who this guy really is.
I like the idea that Billy's actually just like for a few minutes or so, before he decides he's going to look into him, Mr. Swan just keeps showing up and just asking him, "Please help me."
No, he's like, "I could make you better.
He's like, "I could make you better, faster, stronger," and all those kinds of things. And then eventually he's just like, just come over here for a minute, please. Just come over here for a second, please. And then eventually he's just, come on! And then eventually he just goes, something's not right about this guy.
I like the idea that he's like giving basically like the Batman speech to him. Like, embrace your fear. And like trying to talk, I could turn you into what all criminals fear. And he like pulls out a little mask, like the Swanmaster mask, and it's like, and Billy's just like, that's really stupid.
He just goes, "No, mate, I'm not doing it."
And so Mr. Swan's like escorted out of the building, or like kicked out or whatever, and he's like trying to have dinner with his ex-wife, and Mr. Swan just shows up. It's like, embrace the calling. And like throws the mask in front of him. So he goes and he throws the mask away after his ex-wife leaves in disgust and all that stuff about his obsession with swans, and that's not helping the whole situation. And something happens to him that changes his mind.
What is it?
So he gets captured by Jigswan. And I think the first episode of the series should end with basically him strapped to a chair by a bunch of swans.
I don't think he should go that far. I think we need to hold that back, because that's going to be like the big mid-series like cliffhanger kind of thing. This is just, he's tied to the chair, and the swans are sort of just, he's like, you hear the voice. It's pretty androgynous, so we're kind of keeping our cards close to our chest as to who this mysterious Jigswan could be. And the swans come in, and they're just sort of like walking around, just pecking at things. Not him in particular, just around everywhere. And it's just him screaming as the camera spirals into the air, and you just cut to black.
There's a trough with food, and they're just walking over and eating the food and stuff like that. And
cut
he's
to black.
To a chair,
Comic
screaming
Sans.
his lungs
End
out.
of part 2.
Yeah, okay, that. And then we don't explain that, how he gets out.
I was thinking he gets out because he actually wasn't tied to the chair, and it was just some rope around his wrists.
No, we'll come back and revisit that later.
Ooh.
And we'll just continue with the police procedural, as if like none of the second half to the first episode even happened because of some weird writing error that happens. The studio gets in the way or something. I don't know. And so we just go back to the private eye investigation police procedural. We don't even really address the swans or anything for like a couple episodes. It's just that the swans keep on showing up at the crime scenes, and you got to do the zoom into the eyes and furrowed brow, and so like he starts getting back into like police work. Like he butts into crime scenes because there's like a swan feather left behind, or there's swan prints in the mud, and he feels like it's his jurisdiction at that point. Like he even becomes like an animal control person just so that he could butt in.
Just 2 episodes of this guy like going around saying the swans are evil.
There's like a legitimate police detective who used to be his old partner, and this guy just keeps showing up to the crime scenes, and he tolerates him being there, but like really he just thinks he's crazy. So we have like a regular police procedural TV show, but with this guy who's obsessed with swans showing up to try and link all the crimes to swans, and like he's wrong. Like almost every episode, he's just flat out wrong, and you get like a regular, cool police procedural with this character, and then
there's one crime where it actually is the swan that did it.
Yeah, after 4 episodes.
God, Jesus Christ! I just gotta ask, how long is this series gonna be?
It's like 23 episodes for the first season.
First season.
Hey, it's a pretty low budget show. What do they have to spend the money on? Some actors, maybe a loft somewhere, a set that looks like a police station. They film in a bunch of parks. They literally have their own truck of swans show up in several episodes as trucks full of swans.
That's the casting. Just truck full of swans in Swanmaster. Just the truck full of swans goes on to his parents. Mom, Dad, I finally got a job.
So, I think what actually will drive him to become the Swanmaster is he is right about one of the crimes. And it ends up being something really ridiculous. Like, the guy was on some stairs. He slipped on some, like, swan crap and fell and broke his neck or something like that. But they thought it was, like, a murder and all this other stuff. And he showed up right at the beginning. He's like, no, it was the swans. And they go through the whole investigation and everything. And then they end up finding out, oh, it was just swan crap. And he's there, like, off to the side in, like, a car.
I like the idea that he's just been following them around the entire investigation, and just when they go, it was the swans all along, he just goes, you can just hear in the faint background, I told you so.
He guns his car, and he drives past them, and it's like, I was right! And he flicks them off as he goes by.
He's just got like some gangster up in the background, just not even looking at them, just going, I was right, just middle finger at them, and just like gangster up in the background, just riding slowly past them.
He has a microphone, he drops it, and walks away. So, it's at that point that he's convinced that the swans are behind everything, and he must become the hero that the city deserves. And so he goes and no, he's there, and he drops the mic, and he walks away, and he doesn't even get, like, 20 feet before he bumps right into Mr. Swan, who's like, come with me, you're ready. And that's the end of the episode. The next episode starts with a montage of him training to combat swans.
Oh my god.
So it's just like...
I think that should be the entire
swans.
episode. I think the entire episode should
Yeah.
just be like 30-minute long montage.
It's a 21-minute long montage of him just punching swans.
No, and then at the end he just goes, and now you're ready for the final move, the neck breaker. Just grab the swan by its
He's
neck
like-
and its body and its head and just bend it over your knee.
No, I think like halfway through of just killing all these swans and everything, he pulls out a gun and shoots one. And Mr. Swan shows up and, what the hell is that? And smacks it out of his hand and gives him a giant lecture. And it's like, we do not murder these creatures. And tries to get him to, these are the morals that a hero must abide by. And he gives the whole Batman speech, basically.
Yeah, so the no-kill rule, but only for swans.
Well, I'm pretty sure our hero is not stable enough to realize the difference or anything. So that could come back later. Totally, in a later episode. Where, he could have totally killed Jigswan, but he's like, does the high road speech where he's like, no, I'm a hero. We don't kill. And he goes to Mr. Swan, and Mr. Swan's like, why didn't you just kill him?
Because we don't kill people. But I mean, he was like abducting children and making them fight swans. He's kind of beyond reproach at that point.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, like, you know, we go through the whole thing. He shows up at police investigations, and he actually does start linking things together. And Jigswan ends up putting him in a pit with a bunch of swans, and he fights his way out of it, and he feels victorious and all this other stuff, and that's one episode right there and everything. And then he goes on and goes on, and he's right about more and more of these crimes as it goes. Like, there literally are, like, everything's swan related. Like, there's a whole bunch of crimes that are swan related. And so
I just thought of something. What's this city called?
Something not swan related. Parkshire.
Okay, Parkshire City it is.
It's more like it's a town.
Small town
Yeah.
police officer.
I don't think this would fly in a big city. That could be for season 2 though. We totally move this into the big city.
Swanmaster moves to the city. Swanmaster takes Manhattan.
Yeah. So I think eventually like the real detectives end up looking into this, and they end up actually catching Jigswan, or at least who they think is Jigswan, at some point, like the real detectives. And like Swanmaster like goes into depression because his life is like meaningless. So like,
yeah, you spent all this time training, and like just like every like you have these entire episodes that are just montages of him training to fight the swans to eventually get to Jigswan.
Yeah, and the real
and
police...
just like at the last 2 minutes of each episode, you just cut to the police officers doing their job, and they're just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this guy.
Yeah, no, like literally as soon as they realize, oh crap, this guy's on to something, they catch Jigswan in like 2 hours.
I mean, they just looked on the swan trading.
No, there's literally a Facebook page dedicated and like all this other stuff.
It's a Jigswan fan page with one user, and it's the person who is Jigswan.
And it's attached to their personal profile. There's a Twitter, and a YouTube channel and everything else that has the actual crimes on them and everything. Nobody gives a rat's ass basically at this point. Like, you know, it's just some kids getting bit by swans. Who cares? And it's got like 10 viewers, basically like this podcast.
Yeah.
And shots fired.
Mm-hmm. Against ourselves.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he goes into depression and everything else like that. And I think he goes to find Mr. Swan, and he can't find him anymore. And he ends up going through great lengths to find Mr. Swan. And he finds Mr. Swan in like a totally different city, in a different area. And he sees him carrying the same mask, trying to give it to somebody else. And he begins to investigate, and he finds out that there's another Jigswan. Dun dun dun. Yeah, and so like he goes out of his way to find this other Jigswan and confronts them, and then realizes that all the merchandise, like all the outfits and everything else like that, is made by Mr. Swan's outfitters. So Mr. Swan just owns like a suit tailoring company, and he also apparently owns like a down mattress and pillow and comforter company as well. And down jackets. So like you know, he realizes, oh crap, this is all a ruse. This guy's just going around making Jigswans and Swanmasters to go fight each other for his own entertainment. So he goes back to the original town, and he breaks Jigswan out, and they both go to confront Mr. Swan, and that's when season 1 ends.
I feel like for a 23 episode serial, not much really happened in that.
I think that's what the magic is. Like, literally, it's a TV show that would be just a regular police procedural with just like normal crimes and everything else like that. There's just a guy who shows up randomly who is obsessed with swans, and some sort of like B subplot that is literally supposed to be the A plot of the entire series that's going on in the background while police officers just do normal work. It's either really brilliant or the worst idea ever?
I think I might have an inkling which way that's going to go.
It's based on one of my favorite concepts, though. That there's a more interesting, exciting thing that's like behind the scenes of an episode, and they just keep hinting at it, but they never quite like do that. Like they realize that the current episode's not that exciting, so they don't have the budget or the resources to give you the exciting story.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
It was an episode of BoJack Horseman that did that, I believe.
Yeah. I believe every episode will cost around $4 million.
Who the fuck are we casting in this to get that much? Because I'm thinking we need Danny DeVito to cameo in the original, as the original Billy Swanson when he's a fat boy. Then
yeah, I think Bruce Willis should be him later.
Funny, I was going to say Jonah Hill.
Oh,
I think we cast Jonah Hill. I think I said I wanted to cast Jonah Hill when we did the podcast, so I'm going to carry on with Jonah Hill.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's Danny DeVito who becomes Jonah Hill. What actually happened to Jenny? We kind of just.
So she was thrown in prison.
Oh, she was the one who did all the vlogs. And everything.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I think I didn't want her to be so legitimately it, but then they end up doing a team up to escape and confront Mr. Swan, and then the season's over. So you see what happens.
Okay, so yeah.
When they meet Mr. Swan.
Okay, so who should Jenny be played by?
Janine Garofalo.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, you were not a 90s kid. All right. Who would be good?
Do you know, I'm still thinking about sliding doors, so I'm just going to say Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, like, I think I know somebody who would actually play in a role on a TV series like this, and that would be like Felicia Day.
Yeah, she'd be down to do it. She can be our backup, but
yeah, and
Gwyneth Paltrow is the first choice.
Who exactly would be the actual star of the show, which would be the partner? Now I'm stuck on Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and you want Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, Nathan Fillion. Why not? He's not.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's
Firefly got cancelled. He's not doing anything now.
Oh, he's doing a lot of stuff, but that's beside the point. He could always do more.
And Mr. Swan will be Peter Capaldi, because he's done with Doctor Who now, so we'll have him.
Yeah. No, he'd make a good one. Yeah. So I think so that would be the first season of the Captain Swanmaster versus Jigswan. And I think the second season would just start off with like an episode that's almost pure monologuing about immortality and all this other stuff to try and build up the mythos behind.
Oh, totally,
this
definitely.
whole thing.
That would be. Normally you'd spread the gritty monologue out across the whole series. No, we're just going to spread it in the entire first episode, and that will just be it, over monochrome footage of children getting the shit kicked out of them, and people getting robbed and murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, but what's more important is swans are biting people, and then the show gets canceled right away.
We'll never find out what would happen with the mysterious alliance of Jonah Hill and Gwyneth Paltrow as they unite against Peter Capaldi and eventually team up with the police, played by Nathan Fillion.
Well, did they choose to go along with the Immortals?
Oh, who knows? Did we never even got to establish that it was immortal. That was going to be the big series 2 of it.
Yeah, and that is the reveal, but then the show gets canceled. So.
Rating boards. Oh, they always cancel the shows just when they're about to get good.
All right, so I think we actually recorded a full episode.
We did just about, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So this mini episode has turned into a full episode. And I think we want to kind of do something like this when it's just the two of us. And what we're doing is we're trying to get guest hosts to come on with us so that we can fulfill the standard format and maybe produce things for us to talk about like this in the future, so that when it's just the two of us, we can talk about one of these concepts that we come up with in greater detail. And then when we do have a guest host, or we have 3 hosts available, we'll just do a standard a podcast with no aim format episode and do it that way. And as we build up our inventory of things to talk about, we'll do these 2-person episodes. And anyways, thank you for listening to a podcast with no aim. Have a good morning, evening, good night. Bye.